John Carney is the economist and finance editor at Breitbart. He wrote a piece on this very subject, and he's with us right now. So good to see you, John. So leading economic indicators down. Looks like Wall Street's doing very well. Predictions for a recession have been going on for a year. What's going on?
Right. So the leading economic indicators, when they look at three things when they look at it. They look at the depth, the diffusion, that just means how many factors in the indicators are going down, and they look at the duration. It has been down for 15 months in a row. This means that we should be in a recession right now. We're not in one. And we also have things like the yield curve tells us we should have been in a recession. That's been inverted for over a year now. So we really have been pushing the limits. You can see why people thought we should have a recession, but we haven't. And a big reason for that appears to be all of the money we pumped into the economy during the end of the pandemic. During the pandemic, we had to do it. But it was that last bit when Biden first came into office and the Fed thought inflation would be transitory. That pushed us. And that's still funneling through the economy.
And consumer prices are still up 17% since Biden took office. And the economy, just like under Obama, because of all the regulations, is growing at 2% when it was growing north of 6% at the beginning of the administration.
He likes to lie to us all the time and say he inherited an economic disaster when he inherited an economy that was on the rebound, and he turned it into an economic disaster.
With no inflation.
Right.
But my bigger concern is, you talk about the stimulus that's still in the system, is the $6 trillion in spending and infrastructure, the CHIPS Act, the Inflation Reduction Act. This is industrial policy, and this is government takeover, in essence, of large industries. It's called economic fascism, and it's what Mussolini did. And there's this quote. There was an old economist in the United States in '36 that said he was bemoaning the fact that liberal norms of law and constitutional guarantees of private rights in the U.S. would get in the way of us doing this.
Well, yes, thank God. We want that to happen. We hope that happens. But what I will say is that they don't even have a real strategy. When people talk about, like, maybe we should have an industrial strategy for the U.S., they don't really have one at all. If you look at what they're doing, they're not really even trying to make sure that these are good projects they're pumping money into. They just want to pump the money into them. So anything that they can label Green New Deal is going to get a lot of money. This isn't, remember we were all upset about Solyndra back in the day. Right. That was $500 million, right? Now we're talking about trillions of dollars that they're pumping into the economy in this industrial policy. And I think that's almost a misnomer. It is really just a giveaway to their special interest groups.
That was chump change, Solyndra.
Right.
We're playing with real money now. We're talking about all this money going into green energy. You would think the climate activists would actually be really excited and happy, but they're not. They've been taking things to an entirely new level recently.
That was a human dressed as a whale screaming "tax the rich" on a golf course out on Long Island in New York State that they claim was built on stolen native land. Now, demonstrators from the organization Just Stop Oil were taken into custody trying to take over the course overseas at the British Open. Again, it's the elites that are going to crush the poor and keep 1 billion people in abject poverty who are crusading for climate. But Sean has a theory about that.
Well, everything green is actually red. Right. So you think they're talking about climate, but they're actually not talking about climate. They're talking about stolen land. They're talking about tax the rich, which have issues that have nothing to do with climate. This is about a political movement more than climate.
And that stolen land is a little bit rich. Look, I am descended from some people who helped found the Hamptons. They helped found Newark, New Jersey. These were Puritan immigrants to this country, and they started in Boston. They went to Connecticut. They went out to the Hamptons. They didn't steal the land from anybody. We let them get away with this all of the time, saying it's stolen land. You know what? Everything on earth is stolen. The Normans invaded England. The Angles came before them. The idea that because somebody migrated here in the 1600s, that it's still stolen land is frankly something that we should all push back on.
Well, tribes were stealing land from tribes.
Exactly.
But what is the goal of, again, because this climate crusade is morphing, because if you look at John Kerry and Bill Gates, these are like immoral elite, the elite of the elite who are trying to really oppress those people who are impoverished already and keep them in poverty in the name of saving the planet.
That's right. They don't want people to live in detached homes. They don't want people to drive their own cars because those things aren't energy efficient, they say. So they want everybody crammed together in pods, being driven to and from work on public transportation. They hate the idea of like the individual household sitting there, which is, you know, frankly, we used to call that the American dream, and they hate it.
They do hate it. I want to get your take on this because in technocrat overlord news, Amazon has announced that it will roll out its palm scanning payment option at Whole Foods markets by the end of the year. And the CEO of WorldCoin, it's a company founded by ChatGPT's Sam Altman, wants to scan people's irises saying, quote, World ID is coming, whether you like it or not. John, is that true? Do we have a world ID on the horizon? Is every human being going to have their iris scanned?
I am terrified of that happening, and I think we are going to push back against that. The other thing to remember is these things are only as secure as the databases. We keep seeing these databases get hacked all of the time, so they're going to scan your iris, and then the hackers will have the scan of your iris and be able to do whatever they want. It doesn't make anything more secure, even though they pretend it does.
Yep. You can't have my palm,
Careful.
but you can have one of my fingers.
Don't show them the palm.
Which one is it? Hey, which finger do you think I'll offer you?
I think she's just giving him the hand. Yeah. The Heisman.
But you know how you can't show your checkbook or your credit card on TV because people will get the numbers. Pretty soon we're going to have to, you know, cover our eyes and cover our hands when we're on television.
No,
so people can't scan our iris.
Dagan wearing sunglasses on air would be very cool.
No, I've had, you know, I did an acid bath on my palms and fingers a long time ago, just in case.
Can't get fingerprinted.
No, I'm just kidding. No, nobody's giving you. They're already trying to do this at Whole Foods. Thank you, John.
Good to see you, John Carney.
Great to see you, John Carney. We covered a lot of ground.